and she drops and turns and the arrow goes in a lung and then goes in and hits her spine. So she like moved her body so much to create an angle, and I spined her. And I was like, I'm aiming top of the heart. How did that happen? So yeah, like, and if you, I don't know if you got it in slow, like a lot of high frame rate, but like what blows my mind is like that arrow will go towards the deer and the deer's not moving. The deer's not moving. The deer's not moving. And then at the last 2 frames of 120 frames a second, slow down to 40%. That's when the deer can still move. So mainly does, especially.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I think they hear the arrow. The bow has been like the bow sound, like speed of sound, whatever, 700 something. They already heard that and they didn't duck, but they're hearing that arrow coming at them.
What's going on? Welcome back to the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. I'm Jonathan, your host, and guys, we are all about faith, family, fitness, and the outdoors. And with that being said, I want to bring you along on my journey as I go through 2025 and continued. Those of you that have been here since the beginning, thank you so much. If you are new, I would really appreciate you hopping over. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, follow along and leave a review. It helps way more than you know. And I'm also doing some giveaways throughout this year, so you want to stay tuned for those. Before we get into that, though, today we have an amazing guest. We've got Dan Staton. He's a three-peat on here. He's been here for the last 3 years, once a year, to kind of recap how the year's been. Last time we talked about a lot of parenting, family, being a dad, being a husband deal. Today, we're going to get into some other things as far as overcoming adversity. You guys know he just had an ACL replacement and a bunch of other things done on his knee, and he's going through that recovery process. We get into that a little bit and so much more. Archery, elk, fitness, etc. And I really appreciate him taking the time to come back on the podcast and to chat with me so that I can share this conversation with you. So if you're appreciative of that, follow along, enjoy this conversation. Now, guys, before we get into the full conversation, I do want to remind you, we are giving away a 65 millimeter spotting scope from Leupold. No purchase necessary to get entered. None whatsoever. Simply subscribe. Drop a comment down below on this conversation, any questions you may have throughout the conversation, and use the link, get entered so that I can know how to contact you. We will be doing a live giveaway on that when we hit 6,000 subscribers. So no purchase necessary. Win an amazing spotting scope worth about $1,000. You are going to love it. It's amazingly clear glass, their new Gen 2 model. Really excited about that and grateful to Leupold for giving that. And also, guys, with BlackOvis, we have an amazing giveaway as well. Any gear that you are purchasing right now, go use code REDBEARD over on BlackOvis. Get your arrows built over there. If you already know your length and everything, you're just refilling a stock that you have maybe dwindled down, or you want some new arrows and know all the specs, go to BlackOvis with Arrow ID. You can use code REDBEARD, save some money. Any layering systems, new boots, things like that, go and check out BlackOvis. Use code REDBEARD. Every purchase with that code will get you an entry to win one of 6 gift cards that we are giving away. 6 gift cards. So get your gear now, get confident with your gear, and get entered in to win one of 6 gift cards we're giving away at the end of March. So go get entered, use code REDBEARD. You'll be supporting me and my family, and also supporting BlackOvis, one of the partners, and getting the best price possible on the gear that you're already purchasing. So with that being said, guys, let's get into the podcast here with Dan Staton and Elkshape. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. And we've got a three-peat guest here. We've got Dan. I always appreciate the time that he provides to be able to come back on the podcast. And we just kind of, last time we talked a lot about family, about our kids, about stuff that we had going on. And honestly, following Dan's stuff for a while, you guys also probably understand he's obviously big into fitness, big into hunting elk, big into archery, loves to tinker. And for all those reasons, back a couple years ago, went to the first Elkshape camp, which was a ton of fun here in Utah. And ever since then, things have been evolving. And now you've got a big old camp up there in in Spokane that you guys are working on every year. You bring in experts, and so with all of that to be said, guys, I'm welcoming Dan back on the podcast. Dan from Elkshape, and he's got his couch because he's got his knee that's in recovery right now. If you guys haven't followed along with that, and we'll hit on a little bit of his recovery as well, because again, he's got one goal in mind each and every year, and that's to arrow and elk. And so with that being said, for people that maybe don't know who you are, Dan, I hope they do by this point, but who are you?
Oh, like who am I? So my primary identity is not elk hunting. It is faith, family, probably fitness a close third, and then under that would be just a die-hard elk hunter, specifically archery. Um, and then below that would be career. Yes, career below elk hunting. And I have the history to back that statement up. I've quit jobs for elk hunting. So content creation is what I've whittled it down to. People will ask me, like strangers, like, what do you do for work? And it's like, what is the shortest answer I can give them without having to explain anything? And so content creator, seller of hard work. I am a hard work drug dealer, and just I don't care, as long as you are busting your hump towards a big goal. I'm happy with, you know, if I can keep you focused on that, then I'm doing my job.
I love that. That's awesome. And I can attest to that again, just from following through the years of what you've done. You're very consistent at what you do. And even though, again, you tinker with a lot of stuff, you've moved a couple times in the last couple of years as far as your studio, and then of course your family and everything you've got going on, constantly tinkering, but you found a way to be consistent in the constant tinkering and aiming to become better. And I guess I kind of want to lead off with just first and foremost what you're going through right now, because you've been huge into fitness pretty much your entire life, from sports into CrossFit, competing in CrossFit, and then of course elk hunting has given you more motivation even to stay fit and healthy, and then of course your family, as well as you mentioned, is a top priority for you. And so being healthy well into your later years, you want to be there for your kids and for your wife and grandkids and whatever else comes eventually. But with this kind of minor, I don't even want to say, it's not even really a setback, but the hurdle that you've had to deal with recently with your knee, I guess kind of break down for people that maybe are looking at possibly having to deal with some kind of knee or back injury heading into elk season this year. It's only a couple months away. You hit on that very consistently as well, reminding people of that. How do you approach a hurdle such as an injury that you're dealing with?
How do I approach an injury that I'm dealing with? Injuries are going to happen, you know, and any injury, small or big, is a test of your resiliency. So you can treat it as such and not play a fiddle for yourself. So you're never going to see me feel sorry for myself, which is probably a natural human inkling, is like, oh, woe is me. This isn't fair. I'm old enough to know that life is not fair. I'm also old enough to know that tomorrow is not promised. So I can only control what is going on right here, right now, this day that I've been given. So this injury that I'm dealing with is not a back injury. I've had those, and those suck. We can get into back injury. I think that's more common than a knee. But probably next is shoulder or knee, you know, maybe hip. But your ball and socket joints are pretty susceptible to injury, wear and tear. It's not an area a lot of us bulletproof, quite honestly. Maybe we take it for granted, which is funny because like a lot of the audience is archery specific, and like if you don't have healthy shoulders and you're on the sideline, what are you going to do? Pick up a crossbow? Maybe, but you'd rather be shooting your, trad bow or stick bow or compound, whatever. So yeah, healthy shoulders. But to bring it back to my current circumstance is, man, I tore my ACL completely in 2009 in Oregon at a CrossFit competition that's competing at exercising, which is funny to say out loud. And I was trying to get to the CrossFit Games as an individual. And I cannot remember how many events. It was called a sectional. So they kind of invited everybody after the CrossFit Worldwide Competition, the Open, all your top, I don't know, 60 from Washington, Idaho, I want to say Utah, Oregon, came to two different sectionals. One was in Washington and one was in Oregon. And I don't remember why, but I chose the Oregon one. And so I think I was competing against everybody in Oregon and Idaho, something like that. And I don't remember how many people they were going to take to move on to the next step, would be like a semifinal. And then after the semifinal would be the CrossFit Games. So this is like a quarterfinal live competition. I was pretty new at CrossFit, maybe 2 years in, and I was doing really well in the competition. I was really nervous, but I think most of the events day one, I had done well enough to be, I think I was in first place, to be honest with you. And I know that there was potentially one or two more workouts left. And the one workout, I could probably go look this up, but I haven't. But I remember it was like potentially 3 rounds of like 10 deadlifts at 315, which is heavy for me, and something like 15 ring dips, and then 30 box jumps on a 24-inch box. I think did one round, did the second round, and was on my last round, and was on my last 5 box jumps of 90 total box jumps, 100% in first place. Like, was in the main event, main heat, beating everybody. And when I came down, I was doing these repeat style box jumps, which are springing, which is a great way to tear your Achilles. I would not do those anymore. But this was 2009. So how many years ago was that? 15 or 16 years ago. And so I was younger. And when I came down and my leg locked because my legs were shaky. I had just done 30 deadlifts at 315. Mm-hmm. And when I came down, my leg didn't bend. And so all the force of my body weight snapped my anterior cruciate ligament, the ACL. So it went kind of like that. And it popped. And I stopped right in my tracks. And I think I had 5 reps left to do. And so I was like, shit, I'm just going to step up. So I did a step up, and this head judge comes running over. This guy's a jackass. I know his name. I'm not going to say it. But he's like, you can't do that. You have to jump. And he didn't know that I just tore my ACL. I didn't know I just tore my ACL. So like I'm jumping on one leg and then stepping down. Finished the workout. I think I still got first in that workout. But then I still had one more event. So I think I slipped into second, maybe third, but overall. But I ended up qualifying for the CrossFit Regional. Well, when I got back, it was pretty swollen. So I got an MRI. I went and saw a sports medicine doctor. He did the draw test, and he's like, oh, I don't think you tore it, but let's get an MRI. And I was like, oh, yes. They got the MRI, and then they send you to the surgeon to meet with the surgeon. So I met with Dr. Cody in 2009. He pulls up my MRI, looks at it, puts it down. He does the draw test. And whatever way he did the draw test, I could tell immediately that I didn't have an ACL just by the way he was doing it. I was like, stop. It feels so bad. And he's like, yeah, let's schedule surgery. And I'm like, man, I'm a big elk hunter. And is there any way I can schedule the surgery after elk season so I don't miss elk season? And he's like, yeah, we'll schedule it for like first week of October. And so I had like 3 months to get ready for September. And I just did CrossFit, and I rehabilitated in 3 months, went elk hunting. So if this was 2009, I killed a really nice 7. I can remember every year. So I killed a really nice 7x7 in Idaho. And then I went to Montana and killed a 5x5 with Larry D. Jones, a legendary elk hunter. And then when I got back, I was like, cancel the surgery. Because at the time they were going to graft from my patella tendon. And so they're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. And the doctor's like, this is how we do it. You're going to have arthritis in your knee, guaranteed. So then I was like, cancel it. I'm going to go life without an ACL. I'd researched it. And so I went 15 years without an ACL. And this elk season was a good one. And then when I got back from elk season, jumped right back in the gym. And this was the first year at age 43 where I told myself I was not going to pick up a barbell for 30 days. Because going back to back injuries, I've hurt my back lifting too heavy after a full month of elk hunting. I lose a lot of weight when I elk hunt. I lose a lot of muscle. And then I try to jump back into where I left off. Because I show up to every year elk season like at my pinnacle conditioning. So this year I'm like, no barbell for 30 days, put the weight vest on, body weight, calisthenics, conditioning. And then after a month, you're allowed to touch a barbell. So I did my 30 days of purgatory body weight calisthenics. Didn't go hunting at all after I got back from Montana. Really trying to like rebuild my time with family. And in early November, I think I had done like finally touched a barbell and did like a pretty big squat workout. And the very next day I was pretty sore, probably broke down a lot of muscles. And I took my kids to the trampoline park, which I do all the time. We have a gym, we have a membership there for them. And I usually don't jump with them. But in this particular day, I was like, this would be good for me to jump with the kids. And I was pretty sore. So I jumped with them for about an hour and I was sweating. And then when I came down on one jump, the force buckled my knee, snapped it, made all the sounds. And I almost blacked out in pain. I was in so much pain. I was just laying on the trampoline. And my kids were like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, guys, I'm done. I got to go call your mom. I can't drive. She got to pick us up. So I crawled out of there and immediately knew I did something bad. How bad? Didn't know. Well, now I know what I did. I don't have an ACL, so when I came down, I slammed my fibula and my tibia together at an angle so hard that I completely bruised both heads of those bones. And so I'm icing and I'm in pain. This is embarrassing to tell the rest of the story. But so I'm in pain for several days. I'm icing and I can hardly walk. A month goes by and I'm kind of feeling good again. I'm like, okay, maybe I didn't tear my PCL, my MCL, my LCL. Start working out again. And I just got to the point where I could start squatting. I could start doing fun stuff in the gym again. And then I'm downstairs in the basement. My son's got this skateboard. And so I'm on his skateboard showing him trying to show him I can ollie still. And I come down and land on that knee again and it gives out. And I'm back to square one. And that's when I was like, okay, this is vicious cycle. So I got a hold of a doctor, got an MRI. I met with Dr. Cody 15 years later, same surgeon. He's 66. He's a bow hunter. He's not retired. He's an elk killer. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? Are you tired of messing around? And I'm like, yep, let's just get this thing fixed. So he scheduled it for January, but I had to push it back to February. Or no, he scheduled it December, and I told him I'm going deer hunting in Texas twice, and I'm not missing it. So let's schedule after. So as soon as I got back from my second Texas deer hunt, right to the operating room I went. I got it repaired. So they took a cadaver graft. And the cool thing is, Jonathan, the doctor like films the surgery. I don't know how, but like he's with whatever tools and I can see what he's doing and he's narrating it. And he's like, all right, Elkshape, here you go. I'm screwing this in. I'm anchoring here. I'm tying it in. Look at this big cadaver. He shaves off the nubs of my old ACL, the remains. And then he's like, let's look at your meniscus. Oh, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. It's beat up. Let's just do a little cleaning. So nothing, no suturing, no repairs to the meniscus, which is good. But he did clean it. And then I wake up after the surgery and I got a bandage around my knee. I've never been put under before. That was weird. And then I went straight home. My wife drove me home And then I lived on an ice machine, if you know what those are. You wrap it around your knee, you hit a button with ice water, it compresses. I lived on that thing for about 3 days. So no narcotics. The only thing I took was baby aspirin so I didn't blood clot. And I wasn't in pain. I literally wasn't in pain. And then I would say my doctor met with me the following week, and he's like, I'm not going to release you for physical therapy for 4 weeks. He's like, that's going to be longer than most doctors, but I know you, and I'm going to basically put you on restriction for 4 weeks. I don't want you to screw this thing up. And so for 4 freaking weeks, I have not moved my left leg. And so for 4 weeks, I have lost my neural connection to my quad. And my quad has just shrunk to a toothpick. And so I just started physical therapy last week. He's a bow hunter as well. My PT's Ben Wardell, and he's got me doing all sorts of stuff. Like he does dry needling. He hooks me up to this circuit thing that makes my quad just go fire. It's the most painful thing ever. And then he's got me doing all these things. And then he also supervises my Instagram. I always post what I'm doing for fitness. And I literally get texts from him being like, don't do that again. So I just posted one this morning. I'm probably going to get a text from him being like, you shouldn't be doing that. But I'm a dummy, and I will push the envelope. But quite honestly, I'm here to show people you can come back from this. And I'm going to document the entire thing. And my goal is to be 100% by elk season, September 1. So that's kind of like my journey, my story. Long answer, but now you know where I'm at today. So right now I'm on my 2nd week of physical therapy. And I'm always doing things in the gym, at PT, and at home, trying to get my quad to fire. And then, like, I have these little small victories, dude. Like, I've been rowing with the skateboard for the last 4 weeks, which means my left leg's just on a skateboard, but I can still push up, and that sucks. It is so depressing to do that, but at least I'm doing something. And so one of the things that Ben told me, the PT, was like, dude, blood flow is so important. Like, getting your heart rate up every day and moving the blood. That's how you're going to heal. So, like, I'm not even taking a day off, really. Maybe Sundays. I'm always trying to break a sweat every day and get the blood flow. But just the other day, I rode 10,000 meters with both my feet strapped in. Now, it wasn't a world record, but I'm starting to do like little feet. Like, I took the brace off. I ditched the crutches. I've done all those things without really anyone telling me if I could or couldn't. I'm just kind of trying to be smart, but I'm also trying not to. I'm not doing anything too risky, but I'm not a guy who's going to sit back and not push the envelope. So that's kind of where I'm at today.
Yeah. So that same skateboard that sent you packing to the surgeon is the one helping you get your rows in, right?
I'm looking at it right now. I just flipped it off.
They become best friends. Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. You know, and at one point, 6 years ago or so, I was looking at becoming a PT. Worked in a lot of different areas of PT, and that's what kept me out of getting into snow sports here in Utah. Was all the knees and all the back injuries, but mainly knee injuries. And I've seen that test so many times to where it's like Jello, where they're moving your knee and you don't have an ACL, and it's like, like you don't need a doctor to tell you there's nothing there. And for people that don't understand what an ACL is, it basically is the structure keeping your knee from buckling backwards. Internally, you've got a couple different ligaments in there that help with that, but the main one is that ACL from jumping. Usually happens a lot, or just twisting it the wrong way in snow sports and other things as well. And so yeah, that's a rough one. The other big thing about that too is that it's a non-vascular portion, so it's harder to heal than a muscle injury or something like that, because it doesn't get as much blood flow as a muscle or a bone in that instance. So it's a hard injury to come back from. And then it's even, what I've seen too is it's even harder to start trusting it again, because you've not trusted your knee for so long. And now you're like, okay, where am I pushing this to? okay, I'm good here. Like, and so the idea of putting hundreds of pounds of elk meat on your back in September, because you know, and I know you don't rest on your laurels, and that's something I appreciate about you. But I could almost guarantee Dan's success from the effort that you put in every single year, and it is from the effort. It's not that you're, you know, whatever else people want to throw at it. Dan works his tail off, and it shows. And I appreciate that, again, that consistency and that effort. But getting to the small baby steps has to be knowing the little bit that I do know about you. You're a very driven individual, so I can only imagine it's hard to hold back and to get those texts from the doctor saying, "Hey, dude, chill, don't do that anymore." Because again, you're very driven. So with that, you've kind of mapped out your plan. You also are talking a lot about pre-injury consultations going and working with doctors, physical therapists, getting checked out, making sure your movement's good in the gym or however you're training. You've been bringing that up a lot lately too, which I really appreciate. But let's hit on the fitness aspect a little bit here. What the biggest thing that I've noticed with people, and I've fallen into this trap too, is consistency can eventually lead to monotony, which can lead to boredom, essentially, in the gym, where people just the same training over and over and over again. You kind of maybe lose sight of your goals or whatever it is. How do you avoid that? I mean, you mentioned you're in your early 40s. How do you stay consistent without letting boredom take over and keeping your goals in mind?
I think if your training's boring, you're doing something wrong. I mean, I can't remember being bored from my training
Mm,
because we just shuffle the deck so much between the movements and the reps and the sets and the stimulus, and we rearrange things. I think a lot of people get stuck in that bro split where it's like,
mm,
I'm going to do chest on Mondays, back on Tuesdays, shoulders and arms Wednesdays. Thursday, I'm probably going to rest and skip leg day and then rinse and repeat. I don't know what people do, but I mean, I worked inside a global gym like for years as a personal trainer and then as
mm-hmm,
a manager of a gym. So I'm sure it hasn't changed. And so people get stuck in a routine, and I hate the word routine. Like, routine to me is still the enemy.
mm,
I like to just, like at Elkshape trainings program, like it's so many phases that by the time you kind of get the gist of a phase, we're already moving on to the next phase and it's completely different. And I think I like being kept on my toes. Like right now we're coming up at the end of our density phase and going right into an interval based emphasis for the next 8 weeks, which is so much misery. I can't wait. Where, if you're doing interval training, you're essentially trying to build an engine for yourself, a metabolic engine. And in our opinion, it doesn't happen from long, slow distance.
mm-hmm,
Like if I'm trying to build a really big metabolic pathway, I am going to do some zone 2 stuff, but not very often. Like I might zone 2 for recovery on a bike, which is like a low heart rate for me of like 120 on a bike erg for an hour, and I'm going to watch YouTube videos. Well, when you're doing intervals, like you just say you do like Tabata. We'll just pick Dr. Izumi Tabata. We'll do 20-second sprint on the assault bike, and then we'll rest 10 seconds, which is not really rest. And then you'll do that again for 8 rounds. You will feel the lactate build up in your muscles to where they're not firing. And at the cellular level, there's just a lot of acidity building, and enzymes are not able to do what they normally do. And you're not able to flush out the cellular waste from this
mm,
effort. And you'll feel this burn and you'll really shake hands with pain. And that's where you build an engine, is structured interval training. So that's the phase we're in right now, or we'll be in March 1st. And, we'll constantly mix and match the effort and the rest periods. And usually we start out pretty slow, like more like a 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. So you work for a minute, you rest for 2 minutes, you do that for 5 rounds. And then all of a sudden 2-3 weeks goes by and you're at a 1-to-1. Well, you work for a minute, you rest for a minute, and then all of a sudden we start going towards that Tabata type stuff where it's you work for 2 and rest for 1, so a 2-to-1 ratio. That stuff builds mental toughness, by the way. Like, you're doing stuff that just sucks, quite honestly. And I want to do stuff that I don't want to do, which sounds weird to say, but in my opinion, that's where you kind of build up your equity, your mental toughness equity can come from the gym, can come from getting up early, it can come from fasting, it can come from ice baths or sauna sessions. It can come from going to like, maybe your wife wants to go to the opera and you'd rather die. Well, take her to the opera and suffer through and sell her on the fact that you're having a good time when you're not. I don't know. Mental toughness can be built anywhere, but I tell you, I depend on it in the Elk Mountains.
Brief interruption to the podcast. Just want to remind you that it's important to keep your electronics charged when you're out in the back country, when you're on the road, wherever it is that you may be, even if you're international, whatever, you need a reliable charging source. And whether that is a international charging block, which I'm telling you guys, we've traveled out of the country a couple times now, my wife and I, and the Dark Energy battery, or the Dark Energy plug-in, I don't know the name of it, guys, but it has all the different plugs for the various countries all in one block, along with multiple USB-C and USB-A plugs for you to be able to use. Go and check that out. It is a converter block, but you can also use it here in the US. Highly recommend that you go and check that out. Use code RedBeard to save some money. If you're just sticking here to the US and you need to charge your phone, we have the MagSafe Nano charger right here. This thing is a powerhouse for how small it is. I have the regular sized iPhone. Fits on there like a charm. You definitely want to check out the Nano. Or we have the Poseidon Pro battery pack. This thing is my trusted battery pack no matter where I'm going. I slip this into my backpack with a charger. And most of the time, I get to share it with my wife or my kids. Or if I need it and there's no charging available at an airport, when we're driving, whatever it may be, this thing is great. And again, normal size iPhone right here, very slim. So go check out Dark Energy. Get my favorite battery pack, this one or the Nano or the charging block. Use code RedBeard, save some money, support the show. Now let's get back to the episode. Yeah, no, for sure. And that's something that I love, that you incorporate the mental toughness into the training, because it is something that, and you obviously, you're a trainer, you've got lots of experience, you're certified in CrossFit training and other training.
I don't think I'm certified in anything, bro.
Oh, I don't
have any certifications. They are all gone. I can only say that I'm just a dude who, I do have degrees, but I'm no longer certified nothing. I don't want to get that wrong. Like, I have.
Okay, well, I apologize. Yeah, we'll scratch that. That was my misunderstanding. I forgot you do have to re-up those things. But yeah. So so certifications are one thing. You have the knowledge, you've got the experience, and you live it. And then on top of that, again, the mental test, going in and keeping it not boring, keeping it not routine. I love bringing, that you bring that into it, because again, when you get in the mountains, it's very similar when you're out there midday. They're not bugling anymore, or maybe they haven't bugled. They're there, you've seen them, but they haven't bugled. You're trying to play a little bit of a chess match maybe with the elk, and there are times where you have some downtime to think, and if you don't have that mental strength, you get bored, you might leave and go somewhere else, or you might end your hunt early because you don't have that mental toughness out there in the mountains. And so that's a good point of keeping that, on a day-to-day basis as you go through the gym and you go through your training in the off season, when it's not elk season, or whatever it is that your animal is of choice to go after. So for people, I guess you have a training, so you've got Elkshape training. You offer nutrition in there as well, or is it mainly gym focused, lifting and or I guess movement focused training?
Yeah, new for 2025 is my partner Josh is handling the nutrition. And so now he's giving some, like we have some assets in there that are good, but he's now taking it a step further and building custom grocery shopping lists, recipes, and then assignments for cooking. And you can't, that's not a one size fits all. So it's a lot of ingestion of information. How old are you, Jonathan? What's your height? What's your body weight? What's your body fat? What's your goal? How much sleep do you get? How much time do you dedicate to training a week? How stressful is your job? How active is your job? Do you struggle with low blood sugar? Do you have any autonomic diseases, autoimmune diseases? There's a lot that goes into how to tell somebody how to eat. And we are not dietitians, and we will never be dietitians. We always, if you're super serious, don't hire a nutritionist, hire a dietitian, somebody with the degrees to do that. But for us, we're just nutritionists. We're giving templates based on what the athlete's goal is. And what we found is that most people just don't prioritize food prep. Most people eat out of convenience. And when you give yourself a small window of time to put something in your mouth, it's not always the best decision unless you're intentionally following the grocery shopping list, putting the right things in the fridge, and honestly, grocery shopping fairly frequently, because if you're eating real food, it will potentially, I don't know, go bad in your fridge. If you have stuff that's all in your fridge and cabinets that just never expires, I've never seen an expiration date on an apple. It's an apple. It's real food. You pick it off a tree, or real food you dig out of the ground, or you hunt it down with your bow, or you fish it out of a stream. So it's just been a challenge to get people to eat real food. But once they start to do that, it builds momentum. And I'll be the first one to admit, like, I don't food prep all too often because my wife is a saint and makes like double or triple the serving sizes at dinner every night. So I always have kind of meal prep dialed for here at work. Absolutely spoiled. But I did food prep this weekend quite a bit. I knew I had some long days, and it's not that hard for me to make a couple batches of rice, dice up some elk backstrap, make some elk stew. I love ground elk meat. I'm a real elk meat rice kind of guy, and I eat really clean and really simple. And so we've really dove in on the nutrition this year, and it seems like that's what's going to keep people around. Like, we don't want a lot of churn at Elkshape training. We don't have a model to just get people to sign up and then they leave. Like, we'd rather have less members, but they're around for the long run, and that we can build a community through that.
Awesome. No, I definitely appreciate that as well. And hitting on the nutrition aspect, you brought in a couple of things I want to highlight there. One, you keep it simple, and also you focus mainly on whole foods, things that don't have a stamped expiration date, but they expire if you don't eat them soon. And then on top of that, the main idea, and well, at least I hope everyone listening here makes food at least once a week, hopefully multiple times a week, if not every single day with your family. But cooking bigger portions, not to eat right then, but to store up for the next, couple days. Whoever it is that cooks, I'm mainly the one that cooks in our house, so I have no excuse. But sometimes it's the wife, sometimes it's the partner, whoever it is that is the cook in the house. But man, it's so simple and seems so obvious, but a lot of people don't think about that. And so that's something that I definitely want to highlight for people is if you're cooking a meal, and you're eating out of convenience, one, you're saving money by eating at home. I don't care what people say about how it's more expensive to buy lettuce or whatever than it is to buy the boxed food. Well, have you tried your doctor bills? Like, it gets pretty pricey whether you have insurance or not. And even if you do have insurance, you're paying for it. So it's really not cheaper to go that route. And even if it looks like it's cheaper on the box at the moment you're buying it, in all reality, you can get a lot of food out of Whole Foods and spread it out over a set amount of time, whatever you're needing to do as far as meal prep. And so that's definitely a big key point for people, is to not necessarily start diving in on all these diets and fads and all this stuff. Simply start today, do what you can today, and cook whole foods and portion it out, and cook maybe extra so you can portion it out for the next couple of days instead of grabbing that donut or whatever at 7-Eleven on your way into work. You've got somewhere, most places have microwaves now that you can warm things up. And if not, I mean, you can eat steak cold and rice cold. It's not the best, but it'll work, right? So
That's what I do. I never heat up
yeah.
my food. And I make fun of Josh. He heats up his food every day. I never heat it up. I'm just like, it's just, for me, it's fuel, man. It's just get it down, get back to work. But yeah, the simple, it's really not that hard. Like, if you remember at like Elkshape camps, I always would say like, and I didn't invent this, but meats, vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, zero sugar. Sugar is such a drug, man. It is the most potent drug, I think, in the U.S. And a lot of us walk around pretty addicted to it, and it rears its ugly head right before bed. And that is the recipe for no results. And you cannot do any workout program that's going to offset poor nutrition. You're not going to recover as fast. You're not going to train at a high octane level, and you're not going to manipulate the cells in your body so that you look and feel a certain way. And I didn't invent this. And then while we're down this rabbit hole, you also takes a lot longer to get results, and it takes very little time to lose results, i.e. the atrophy in my quad that's still relevant. 4 weeks. 4 weeks of not moving it, gone. And I can literally can hardly fire my quad right now. It's a use it or lose it system. So take that knowledge and apply it to yourself, and start with small, reasonable steps. And it could be the simplest stuff. Like, we'll ping pong some ideas. Like, I want everyone to wake up in the morning, go straight to the tap water or fridge, and drink the tallest glass of water, and see if you can do that 7 days in a row. Like, you're going to start your day off with 12 ounces of water. A lot of people don't do that. They go straight to the coffee pot. And I love coffee. I got coffee staring at me right over there. I'm about ready to have some. Like, I always drink a big tall glass of water before anything. I always make myself eat breakfast. I'm historically not hungry in the mornings, but in order to jack that metabolism, I will eat something in the mornings, typically egg related or steak related or some combination thereof. That doesn't take a lot of time. So water, breakfast, then do your thing. Like, that's one small adjustment. The other thing would be, like, at the end of your day, figure out a routine that can put you to sleep at a reasonable time. I think a lot of productive, high successful people just straight up go to bed early. Like, they don't have to watch that extra episode because it had a cliffhanging ending and you have 7 more episodes on your Netflix. You got to watch that next one and stay up 1 extra hour. And in 3 months from now, you can't even tell me about that show. You will already forgotten about it because it's not significant. So what is significant is recover, and recovering is sleep, and sleep needs to be uninterrupted. And it's like an airplane. You can't just be at 35,000 feet and then land. You've got to kind of come down and get the landing gear out and kind of set yourself up these routines in the evening so that you can maximize your sleep. Those are 2 basic things. I didn't really talk about working out or nutrition. I just talked about 2 little things to do at the end caps of your day that could kind of help build that, snowball that momentum.
No, for sure. Yeah, those habits they compound over time. And when you drink that 12 ounces of water in the morning, you're not drinking maybe as much coffee, or maybe you do. I don't know. I'm not a coffee drinker personally, but you've started off with the hydration versus an energy drink or a coffee or whatever it is that gets that vaso diet constriction going with the caffeine. You want to hydrate your body, refill those muscles, and take nutrients where they need to go. And then the sleep is just, I mean, there's so many studies out there that prove that even for mental health, getting good restful sleep. And there are some people that genuinely can survive, and not just survive, but thrive in 4 hours of sleep. There are, I guess, genetic markers out there that show that. But it's what they do in those 4 hours, what their body's able to do in those 4 hours is get that deep sleep, reset, clean the mind, everything that your brain does while it's sleeping restfully. That, if I've been guilty of this a lot, I can drink caffeine and go right to sleep, but I don't get restful sleep. And I've noticed that I'll wake up feeling tired, even though I may have slept for more hours than the night before. I don't get that restful sleep because your body's still processing that caffeine and everything. So those are simple, and they don't cost anything, right?
Yeah.
Those aren't things that you're not trying to sell people tap water. You're not trying to sell people a sleep routine. That's something that you can just do on a regular basis that I really appreciate. Appreciate you bringing up. So, with that being said, the Elkshape training, obviously you live the results, you show the results, and now you have a partner that's helping out with the nutrition there. What is shifting to kind of the dad aspect of things? This is where we all kind of struggle sometimes. If you have kids that are picky, even kids sometimes just have different tastes, or they wake up like this morning. Last couple mornings, my son's been like, I don't want breakfast, but I know him, and if he goes to school on an empty stomach, I'm going to get an email from the teacher. So how do you handle, and not anyone saying that you're perfect or that expert at being a dad, but you have young kids. How do you handle those situations outside of living the example, to where maybe your kids give a little pushback and you're like, well, I know this works. I'm showing you that this works. How do you help them understand that?
Well, it's a battle, man. Like, my son is the worst offender. Like, he literally has the audacity, is what I would call it, to look a home cooked meal square in the eye and be like, I'm not hungry, which is a lie. And then we fight and yell, and it's not good. And then an hour later, after his dramatic production, he's like, I'm hungry. Can I have a bowl of cereal or some cereal that's totally high fructose corn syrup? And it's like, no, dude, no, you can't. Like, you didn't eat your dinner, go to bed hungry. Well, it's hard to be consistent on that front, man. Like, that battle ensues every day. But there are small victories along the way. Tristan likes to make smoothies now, which I don't know if they're the best, but man, if I look at the ingredients, we're talking ice cubes, blueberries, huckleberries, a half a banana, some natural peanut butter, frozen spinach, like a cup of frozen spinach, some whey isolate protein, and a kid's vitamin. He's been doing that, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty, like, some phytonutrients, that's nutrient dense, that's cool. So he's having one of those a day when he gets home from school, makes it himself now, and he's only 8. That's good. But dinner is always a struggle, trying to figure out what the kids like and don't like, and most of it's stuff they don't like. And we're not here to make 2 different menus, to be quite honest. And so I don't handle breakfast. I'm always gone before anyone in the house is up. I'm always at work earlier than everybody, and I get home just as dinner's on the table. My days are long, but like, it seems like my wife makes them a damn good breakfast every day. Like, usually some sort of toast and eggs, or she'll make protein pancakes. But all in all, the struggle is real. I don't really know. Like, and I can't believe how much candy they have stashed in their backpack, and they're not getting it from our house. I think they're getting it from their friends at school or their school itself. And our kids don't eat hot lunch. We literally have them trained as part of their morning routine to make their lunch before they even eat breakfast. They're both up in the kitchen, and that I'm proud of. Like, that's been a new habit that we've helped create. So, like, they're in charge of making their lunches at ages 8 and 10. And I don't know about you, but I had hot lunch here and there, and looking back, I still don't even know what the hell I was eating at hot lunch. Like, Pizza seemed like to be on the menu every week. Weird hamburgers. Lots of churros. Like, you don't eat a churro. Like, we don't have churros in the house. So there's just, some people can't, that's not an option for them. But for us, like, it's not an option to let them have hot lunch. We got to take control of that. So again, navigating these waters, not a subject matter expert, still learning how to get kids to eat clean. And it's a challenge, and it'll be a battle tonight, guaranteed.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm right there with you. I don't know if there is, and it's I've tried so many different routes. I haven't tried the route of being angry per se, but and I won't go down that route, but I've tried the understanding, I've tried to ask questions, I've tried to have them help, and sometimes it goes really smooth, and other times it's just, usually it has to do with the fact that they'd rather be playing with friends than than eating dinner with us, right? And I'm okay with that, because it doesn't have to do with screen time or any of that. But it's, and I wanted to go back to kind of the sugar that you brought up, and we just went, my wife and I just went on a trip out of the country, and I've noticed when you go to, for example, Mexico. So I lived in Mexico for 2 years. They still have a lot of sweets. They have a lot of the stuff that we have here in the U.S., just branded different. Still very, very lots of sweets, and lots of salt. And I've never been to Canada, so I can't speak for that. But I feel like it's got to do with countries that border the U.S. also have the same problem we do as far as sugar. Going outside of the U.S. So last year we were blessed to go to Italy. This year we went to Fiji. And I said to my wife, I said, if the snacks in the US tasted like they taste here, we would not have an obesity problem. They are not packed, even their potato chips, bread, even, like, you could take a bite of bread and you're like, I'm good with one piece of toast. I don't need to eat half the loaf, because it's not packed with sugar. It's actual bread. You know what bread's supposed to be. Same thing in Italy. It was the same, just the way they made their pasta and everything. It was like, I don't need a second serving. I don't feel like I want that. The sugar's not there. And we've found a way, unfortunately, here in the US to combine fats, sugars, and anything else that's not good for you at the same time, and combine them so that there's more of that consumerism towards those kind of foods. They leave you feeling empty and wanting more, and that pushes towards, I'm a big proponent of capitalism, but in this aspect, we failed, quite frankly. And so I challenge anyone, if you have the opportunity to go outside the US, not continental here in North America, but going to Europe, going to Asia, whatever it may be, try their snacks out and see the difference. Try their bread and see the quality difference, and realize, the difference in what we're talking about here with the sugar. I think most people don't even realize it's there, because it's just been there for forever. And so, yeah, just keep track of that. It's not necessarily that carbs are the problem. It's the chemicals and everything else that are mixed in there, making you want more, leaving you empty calories, in turn turning into stored energy, aka fat, right? So that's stuff that you don't want on the mountain with you. So with that, what, I guess, I usually ask people a goal they have. We obviously know what your goal is this year. You have one goal every year, but but in reality, with elk season, I guess even before that, with tack, how do you stay on top of shooting your bow every day? I assume it's daily, or very frequently you shoot your bow, again, without creating that routine, that monotony. How do you incorporate that kind of that mindset, like you do in the gym, of not making it boring and not having to have the newest, latest, greatest stuff to keep it that way? But actually, if someone has their setup dialed in February, how do they keep it dialed and excited to shoot daily or frequently throughout the week, all the way through to elk season, deer season, and beyond here in 2025?
So this is for maybe folks that are dialed in with their setup in February.
Yeah, so if they didn't go and have to buy the newest bow, swap everything out, or maybe they did and they already have it dialed in here in February, how do you keep from getting bored per se or monotonous all the way through the rest of the season?
Well, archery involves muscles.
Mm.
Muscles are use it or to lose it system. So I don't think most guys can afford to put their bow up on the shelf until August. And if you can, good for you. That's not me. But you could definitely do 10 arrows, blank bell, 2-3 yards away, eyes closed, safe environment, and just feel what a good shot execution is supposed to be like. That would be impactful to just build off that. Maybe it's a rep counter or whatever, but like, man, I feel like that alone would be highly valuable. You could also challenge yourself and maybe take your hunting bow into the indoor target archery arena, 3-spot Vegas, and put out a game of 30 arrows and see what your score is, because you can measure it, quantify it, and you can see, do you have the endurance to do that? And can you repeat a perfect shot 30 times in a row? I know I can't. And work towards that and to try to bring that to cross over into bow hunting. I mean, if I never missed a shot on an animal, I would have twice as many elk and deer and antelope and everything mounted in my gym and in my studio. There's so many critters that I've just blown it. Just come down to, can you execute a shot that is technically easier than the ones you take in your backyard and still fail. So, I mean, to me, the crux of all my success will always come down to making a shot. Not if, can you find the elk? Can you get close? Can you find deer? White? Yep, I sure can. Every time, every year, your boy's going to be in archery distance of an animal. Now, is he going to execute a good shot? And I've done it a lot. I've made a lot of good shots in my career, but it's almost like the slate gets wiped clean, man. Like literally day to day. And so I like that cold bore stuff. So if you don't want to shoot for a lot and you get home, and I mean, daylight is increasing, folks. Pretty soon, daylight savings is coming. Like, we're going to have time in the evening to start shooting again. Thank God. If you don't have a lot of time, then screw on your broadhead, whatever it is, and shoot a cold bore every day when you get home. Just one arrow. I feel like all archery hunting that I do is nothing but cold bores. It's like packing a bow around for 10 days, and then you finally get to actually use it on day 11. Well, there's your cold bore. That first shot's so important. So we said blank bell, cold bore, indoor target archery. And then I made a video on YouTube not that long ago that did not get that many views because it does not have a very cool thumbnail or title, but it's like the best video I've made. And I just run through all these different scenarios that you can do at home to duplicate scenarios you'll have in the field. Stuff super simple, like if you're a whitetail hunter, shooting with gloves and a face mask on, climb on your roof and shoot downhill with that stuff on, or somewhere safe, set up a tree stand, and just make sure that doesn't change your point of impact. Stuff like holding your bow back for 15 seconds, then shooting, graduate to 30 seconds, graduate up to a minute, and see what is your threshold. Is it at 40 yards and under? I'm bankable. But as soon as I get past 40 and I hold a bow back for a minute, does it get a little sketchy? Drawing a bow back on your butt, shooting off your butt, off one knee, off both knees, putting your pack on, shooting with your pack on, running down and back to the target, and then just shooting to kind of mimic a higher heart rate, a higher rate of breathing, which is what elk hunting is. There's so many ways to practice other than 20, 30, 40, 50. Like you're rarely going to shoot an animal at an even numbered distance, yet we all continue to practice at even numbered distances I would spend a week going all odd numbers, pen gapping, knowing your trajectory. I mean, we could podcast about this all day, but if you're running out of ideas for archery, you're doing it wrong. I think like there's just endless amounts of things to work on, and it will rear its ugly head. And you may have the regret of, I wish I would have practiced that scenario, but at least I have 364 more days to think about it, how I screwed that up.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the worst. That is absolutely the worst feeling, is knowing that you're not getting that opportunity back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely that's no good. I was just laughing because I'm thinking of I went to help my buddy cull some does off of his property in December, it was so much fun. But I've never shot well, I guess I had shot at a whitetail earlier that year. Got my first buck this year with a bow. He took it like a champ. He took it like an elk. Honestly, didn't duck, nothing. Like just took it. And my buddy's dad was like, "Well, yeah, because up here in Wisconsin we breed them that way. They just take it, like they don't duck, kind of deal, you know." But in North Carolina, man, they did basically a burpee. They just chest to the ground completely. And I had my buddy behind me, Jeff Cordero.
Oh yeah.
Such a good dude. And he got it on video, of course, you know. And I'm sitting there, and it was just a doe, but I was so excited. Broke perfectly. It was like a 30-yard shot. And I just looked back at him. I was like, F. And he was like, "You missed." I'm like, I don't know how, but I missed. We watched it back. Made me feel better because we did the little thing. I think you've done it a couple times where you put the dot where the arrow ends up being, and it was, I mean, perfect, middle of the body, and she just ducked it right at 30 yards, and that blew my mind. I was like, holy crap. And so just even learning situations like that, knowing the animal that you're hunting, that you're focused on, or if you have multiple hunts, getting to know them, learning the vitals. I agree with you. If you are bored with archery, you're not doing it right. There's so much.
The Texas deer are similar. Like the bucks kind of don't duck, but the does. I love the word burpee. That's exactly like they do like a twisted matrix burpee. I mean, I shot one doe where you could do the pin on it and the arrow goes to it, and it was at 26 or 27 yards, and she drops and turns and the arrow goes in a lung and then goes in and hits her spine. So she like moved her body so much to create an angle, and I spined her. Yeah. And I was like, I'm aiming top of the heart. How did that happen? So yeah, like, and if I don't know if you got it in slow, like a lot of high frame rate, but like what blows my mind is like that arrow will go towards the deer and the deer's not moving. The deer's not moving. The deer's not moving. And then at the last 2 frames of 120 frames a second, slowed down to 40%, that's when the deer can still move. So mainly does, especially.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I think they hear the arrow. Like the bow has been like the bow sound, like speed of sound, whatever, 700 something. They already heard that and they didn't duck, but they're hearing that arrow coming at them. And then when it gets closer and closer, they can, it just blows my mind is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So for whitetail, I'm like pretty convinced to go right up the leg, top of the heart on a deer I think is going to duck. Other than that, I'm just going to go right above the heart and a little bit back towards the center of the lungs in case, like, I'm just trying to give myself as much margin center. And those lungs do go up at an angle. You know, if you aim for top of the heart and you end up over here, that's nothing. So something to think about. But yeah, it's cool that were you in a saddle or a tree stand?
Yeah, so I was in a tree. In that situation, I was in a stand that he had preset, and he was up behind me in a saddle, over my shoulder. And it was funny because you could see his 2 stands from his back window, you know, so we were joking about the
Oh,
backcountry hunting, and I'm up there in the saddle one morning. He was like, yeah, I didn't feel like going out this morning. I just, you know, the wind was bad for the other stand. So he's like, he took a picture of me out there in my saddle, and he's like, yeah, this backcountry hunter, you know, just, but, you know, you bring that up, and I remember seeing that video where you videoed the doe that got spined, talked about it coming out higher on her body than where it went in. I had a very similar situation, and I was steep. I was probably 25 feet up in a tree, aimed down,
yeah.
and it went in lower than it came out. And I was like, and I'm
Okay.
sitting there, we're cleaning up, and I was like, I said, am I thinking about this wrong? And I went back and I'm like, no, the arrow went in here and came out higher because he did the same thing where he ducked and turned and it came out higher than it went in, which is crazy with how steep of an angle it was. You know, those animals they're quick. They're super quick.
Yeah.
But they're fun. You know, it's fun to get out and get those reps. You know, whenever you have that opportunity. Yeah, and then I guess, I mean, that's pretty much what I wanted to hit on with you. Again, I'm going to encourage people to go back and listen to the other two podcasts we've done and just kind of hear. Last time we focused a lot on being a dad, and things that we do. I don't want to rehash that in this conversation, but we went over a lot of things in the last podcast last year about being a dad in this trying situation of these times nowadays where everyone's on screens, everyone's hopped up on sugar, you know, trying to keep our kids away from that and away from, you know, dangers that opens up to our kids. So I'd recommend people go and check that out if you're interested in more of the dad side of Dan Elkshape. Outside of that, you know, I don't really have anything else. I appreciate your time, Dan. I really do. Every time we're able to hop on this and talk about it, I'm excited to see what 2025 brings for you. And of course, more than anything, rooting for you and your success with your knee. It's not an easy recovery. I've seen a lot of people go through it, and a lot of people unfortunately fail and let their life go downhill afterwards. I know that's not going to be your case, but I'm excited to see what this year has for you. So, you know, where can people find you? And I'll leave the links for, of course, Elkshape training and everything down below as well for people to check out.
Well, thanks, Jonathan. I don't really care about the podcast part. I just like this gives me an opportunity to talk to you for an hour, which is cool. It's not an everyday deal. I've known Jonathan a long time, and I've watched him kind of grow and become a really good archer. Battle it out in fitness. Maybe you don't have the best genetics, you know, but you're never giving up, and you don't use that as an excuse. And um, you're always positive. Like I don't think I've ever heard a negative thing come out of your mouth, which seems to be rare. I'm not trying to embarrass you, but I mean, I get to, I'm not here to plug Elkshape. Elkshape's whatever, but like, I'm here to plug Jonathan. Like, Jonathan's the real deal. He's a good man. And you're really conscientious of like, how are you raising your family? Which is really cool to see, man. Like, and you have a big family. You don't have like a small family. You got a spread there. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably pretty dynamic.
And
And
unfortunately, Dan, I'll tell you, adult children, it's worse than when they're
oh
younger.
God, don't tell me that right now. Eh,
My son's doing some stupid crap right now that I'm not going to disclose on here, but yeah,
right.
it's adult children are just,
Well,
yeah.
at some age, a kid like me specifically, at some point I said, instead of doing the opposite of whatever my dad says, at some point I switched 180 to, even to this day, a lot of times I'll call my dad, age 68, to see what his thoughts are on
Mm.
something, you know. And I think that comes with time. But there was definitely a stretch, specifically 16 to 18, where I was just a jerk to my dad. And I didn't, you know, it wasn't that much longer after age 18 where we became best friends.
Mm-hmm.
So hang in there, buddy. But yeah, we do some dumb stuff as kids. But no, man, check out Elkshape training if you don't have a plan, or the plan you have is boring. We set it up to be month to month because I don't like contracts, quite honestly. So we do have some people will come try it out. It's not for them. They'll head out. That's cool, whatever. But it is a community of people that mainly train at home with minimal equipment. And then there's a handful of us like myself who have spent a small fortune on workout equipment because it's so important to us. But if you have a sandbag, a weight vest, and a set of stairs you can step up onto, dude, you're great. Maybe throw a pull-up bar. And you can always buy gear for your gym down the road, upgrade slowly. Maybe you don't need the newest pair of boots, although I want you to have nice boots. But you know what I mean? Like, you can maybe invest more into this piece of gear, this body that gets you, and then you can kind of reduce the fat pounds on your body to make your hunting system ultralight. You know, you kind of don't have to buy like the lightest Stone Glacier backpack ever. They make great packs. Maybe you take that and you're like, okay, I'm going to double down on my nutrition and my fitness and my continuity for my children. And I'm going to make myself ultra lightweight gear, my body, and have a purpose for every pound. So that's kind of what the Elkshape training is. And then we're on Instagram and YouTube is kind of where I spend most of my energy for Elkshape proper, making videos. I've seen a million comments coming up here on my YouTube video. I must have said something dumb. It flashes on my screen. Never read the comments, right?
Yeah.
But no, that's what we do. We're here to sell you hard work. That is it. So
I love it. Yeah. Again, I definitely appreciate the time. I know you've got a very busy schedule. We've got lots going on, and I definitely appreciate these chats, being able to catch up a little bit. And I did want to ask one last thing. Did you ever get that Mountain Dew bucket hat I sent your way?
no.
Dude, okay. So a couple years, it was like 2 years ago when you brought up the Mountain Dew kept trying to sponsor you. And I was like, oh man, it was like right after Elkshape camp. I think it was actually for your birthday. I sent it to your house with a little note. Hey, hope you enjoy the sponsorship. And because I found a Mountain Dew bucket hat on Amazon and just shipped it to you. And I was like, well, maybe he didn't realize it was a joke. I don't know, but sounds like you didn't see it.
I never got
yeah.
that. Dang it. I appreciate that humor.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I'm not going to name names, but I was surprised to see how many little people in the industry took that money from Mountain Dew to make some stuff with them. I was like, no, and maybe that they're cool with it, but to me, I'm not selling out. That's a sellout for me.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too. And I appreciate what you said about, me and what I've got going on. And, but honestly, that was one of the biggest things, guys. You've heard me say this before, but when I was getting into archery, back in 2019, there was 2, maybe 3 people, that I latched onto on YouTube, just searching things out. And I think back then you didn't have over 100,000 like you do now, but it was a smaller channel, but you put out good content. And I could tell, even though you had sponsors, you're very real about go shoot all the bows, go shoot all the arrows, do whatever works for you. Just go shoot a freaking bow and work out, and I remember that day forever. I was on the stair stepper, getting ready for or wrapping up a workout. And I just remember locking in on your channel, and I really appreciate that. And you haven't changed. I mean, you've got different partners or more partners at this point. You've got different camera guys, and other things have changed, but you still don't sell just to sell, bringing up the Mountain Dew thing. You are there, you partner with people you believe in, you use the stuff, and they just say, look, if you don't like what I like, that's cool. Just get out there and do it,
Yeah.
And that's what I really appreciate about you and your channel. So keep it up, man. I'm really excited for your year here in 2025. For everyone out there, I'm going to leave the links down below. Again, if your plan's not working or it's boring, go check out Elkshape Training. He definitely has a plan that works. It's very, very clear by the way Dan lives and the people that are around him handle their fitness, and his success comes from hard work, not from dollars, and buying his way into hunts and everything that he does. So go check it out, guys. The links will be down below. Again, Dan, thank you so much for your time. And like I always say, guys, get out, live your life, and love it. Hope you enjoyed that conversation. Dan is a really good friend. He is someone who aspires to constantly be better. He's a great dad, a great husband to his wife, does everything he can to constantly be better there, along with hunting elk, his fitness, archery, ties all of that together. So if you're into that, and like he says, he sells nothing but hard work. He does have a brand. He works with companies, but guys, when you get to know Dan, when you watch his stuff, you just know he's one of us. He wants to get better every day and wants to shoot an elk with a bow each year. And that's basically it. So go and tune into his channel. I'll leave the links down below. Also, guys, don't forget to get entered into the no purchase necessary. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and use the link down below to get into the 65mm Leupold Gen 2 spotter. I want to give that away to you guys once we hit 6,000 subscribers. And also the BlackOvis giveaway. We have 6 gift cards that we are giving away to BlackOvis of a substantial amount. And you get entered by using code RedBeard when you go and make a purchase over on BlackOvis, whether it's Arrow ID, where you go and build your arrows online. My recommendation for that is if you already have your specs, you already know everything that you need for your arrows, it's a great place to go. So they go ahead and build it for you. They take that work out of the equation for you. Also layering options, boots, tons of things. My favorite backpack, Initial Ascent, is over there at BlackOvis. Go use code RedBeard. Every purchase with that code gets you an entry to win one of 6 gift cards that we're giving away at the end of March. So thank you guys for your support. If you have any other questions or any other gear that I've mentioned before, check out the links down below. That's how you can support the channel. I really appreciate you. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And of course, get out, live your life, and love it.